this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. And today I am going to be taking a look at the short and amazing catalogue from progressive rock band 3.2. So 3.2 is a studio project that was formed in 2015 by singer, multi-instrumentalist, composer and producer Robert Berry, who has fronted a number of different bands throughout his career, such as Hush, Alliance, December People, 6x6, and Free. And just like in the name, 3.2 is a continuation of Free, a band that Robert Berry was a part of back in the 80s with ELP members Keith Emerson and Carl Palmer. And fast forward to 2015, Keith Emerson and Robert Berry would get together again after more than 20 plus years since Free's last album, To the Power of Free, and the two of them began revisiting older songs, shooting out new ideas, and putting together arrangements and working on brand new material for a potential Free follow-up, which was dubbed 3.2 after signing a recording deal with Frontiers Records. But sadly, the proceedings would be brought to a halt as Keith Emerson would sadly pass away in 2016, leaving Robert Berry to not only complete the project on his own, but finish the entire album. And what I like about 3.2 is it's not really just a continuation of Free, it's a whole new, brand new concept that really does a fantastic job in not only capturing the spirit of Free, but also taking it to the next level. And Robert Berry does an amazing job in not only honoring the spirit of Keith Emerson, but really channeling his playing and composing skills, but still keeping things completely new and fresh. And Robert Berry is a fantastic musician, an unbelievable singer, a great composer, and a super talented multi instrumentalist. And for those of you who probably know Robert Berry, he was also a huge part of the Magna Carta label and was instrumental in all of those great tribute albums of Rush and Genesis, to name a few. And in more recent years, Robert Berry has transformed 3.2 into a live touring band as they go out and perform all songs from Robert Berry's career, as well as performing material from Free, ELP, and also perform cover versions of Genesis and Yes material. And 3.2 is comprised of Robert Berry on bass, guitars, and vocals, Paul Keller on guitars and vocals, who was a touring member of Free's live band during To the Power of Free tour, Andrew Coyer on keyboards and vocals, and Jimmy Keegan on drums from Spock's Beard. So, an amazing band that Robert Berry has put together to really showcase not only brand new material, but as I mentioned already, perform material from Robert Berry's long and extensive career. And for today's edition, I am going to be discussing the short catalogue of 3.2, which is a total of 3 albums, 2 studio albums, and 1 triple disc live album. And as always, I am going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. A short catalogue, but a very good one. All 3 albums are excellent. You can't go wrong with any of them. Any of these albums could easily be a number one or an all-time favourite. They're so well produced, so well put together, and there is some excellent music, as I said earlier, that really captures the spirit of Free. And what I liked about the 3.2 albums after listening to all 3 They sound like they could have been for a full band, and that's a testament to the talents of Robert Berry. He plays all of the instruments himself, as well as performing vocal duties, and it sounds like a full band. And sometimes you could almost forget that you think that this is Free have just got back together and made a brand new album, and it's amazing. And I would have loved to have seen Free get back together and make a new album, because the problem with Free, through no fault of theirs, was at the time they came out, it was a different world, and all of those sorts of bands just got buried and slammed by the critics. But I've talked about Free to the Power of Free before, which I'll leave the link down at the bottom at the end of this edition. I personally thought Free were a fantastic band. The music was very AR-ish with pop hooks, but it still was very rooted in progressive rock and honouring the spirit of ELP. But I thought they were a great band. I would have loved to have heard more. So 3.2 is probably about as close to what you probably would have got if Free did actually get back together. So we're going to start with the first album, and this one came out in 2018, and this one is called The Rules Have Changed. So this is Robert Berry playing all of the instruments himself and performing vocal duties. And it's got a number of Keith Emerson compositions as well as brand new Robert Berry songs as well. And it's excellent, powerful, top production. Robert Berry is just on fire and really sounds like a one man band. And I love Robert Berry. I think Robert Berry is an amazing musician and a super talented multi instrumentalist. And his playing and his composing skills are on full display. And he does a fantastic job in not only honouring the memory and spirit of Keith Emerson, but really capturing the sound of Free. And the music is very proggy, it's very AR driven, and there's lots of pop hooks, but it's got fantastic music and I love it. I just think this is a great album and it really sounds like a full band. And Robert Berry, as I said, he's just all over this album, and vocally and musically, he's just on top form. So let's have a quick look, shall we? So what we got here is just a little insight into how this project came together and the meeting up with Keith Emerson after all those years. So you're essentially what you're getting here. It's just like a little breakdown about the history of Free and all these songs. And there's a little bit more insight into the making of this album. And we've got the lyrics and more lyrics and some great pictures of Keith Emerson and Robert Berry working together. And there's Robert Berry in the studio. So as I said, he plays all of the instruments himself. So it's very heavily multi-tracked. But you wouldn't really know that because you probably would have thought this was a full band playing all these songs. So another great shot there of Robert Berry on the drums and bass. And there's Emerson and Berry as well, and the production notes as well. So all of the compositions are written and composed by Robert Berry, and there's also a couple of contributions from Keith Emerson as well. So the tracks that you see that have got 2 stars, they are the ones that are credited to Keith Emerson. And the ones that you see that have got a single star, they are the ones that are credited to Robert Berry. So we start off this album with the opener, One by One, which is absolutely fantastic. What a great album opener. Then we've got Powerful Man, which is excellent. And then we've got the title track, The Rules Have Changed, which is just absolute dynamite. Our Bond, which is excellent. What You're Dreaming Now is great. Somebody's Watching is excellent. This Letter is another great track. And then we've got the closer, Your Mark on the World, which really lets you know just how much Keith Emerson meant to not only Robert Berry, but to fans and musicians worldwide. It's a beautiful album, very powerful, hard hitting, and just an absolute prog rock masterpiece. And as I said, Robert Berry does a fantastic job in honouring the composing skills and playing of Keith Emerson. And the standout tracks for me are One by One, The Rules Have Changed, This Letter, Your Mark on the World, What You're Dreaming Now. Just an excellent album. And as I said, Robert Berry is truly like a one man band. He plays everything: guitars, bass, drums, keyboards. He's a brilliant keyboard player. And sometimes I almost forgot that it was Robert Berry. It sounded like Keith Emerson. And he does a really good job handling all the keyboard parts. And above all else, he's just got an amazing singing voice. So there you have it, 3.2. The Rules Have Changed. An excellent album that does a great job in capturing both the spirit of Free and Keith Emerson. Absolutely fantastic album. Love this one. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2021, and this one is called Third Impressions. So this time round, this is more of a Robert Berry project, whereas The Rules Have Changed was more of a joint project between Robert Berry and Keith Emerson. And all of the compositions here are written and composed by Robert Berry, with the exception of one track, which was co composed by Keith Emerson and Robert Berry. And Third Impressions is an excellent follow up to The Rules Have Changed. And it's got a lot of great hooks. And as I said, with The Rules Have Changed, Third Impressions is a great continuation and does a remarkable job in honouring and capturing the spirits of both Free and Keith Emerson. It's a really good album and equally as good as The Rules Have Changed. So let's have a look, shall we? So, like always, Robert Berry plays all of the instruments himself and he sings, and absolutely incredible stuff. So, this is looked upon as the third and final part of the Free trilogy. So, it started with To the Power of Free, and then The Rules Have Changed, and now Third Impressions. So, this is essentially like the final chapter in the Free series. So, there is a little bit about how this project came together. And we've also got lyrics as well. And we got more lyrics here as well. And we got more lyrics as well. And we got like a cool shot of the original Free with Keith Emerson, Carl Palmer, and Robert Berry. A really cool picture. So, Top of the World is a great opener. Absolutely love it. What Side You're On is excellent. Black of Night is great. Killer of Hope is brilliant. Missing Piece is great. A Bond of Union is brilliant. The Devil of Liverpool is excellent. Emotional Trigger is great. A Fond Farewell is great. And this track, the closer, which probably is my favourite track from Third Impressions, is Never. And if you listen very closely, there is a little cue from Iron Man, the animated series. And for those of you who remember watching the Iron Man cartoon back in the 90s, Keith Emerson provided the soundtrack for the cartoon. And I love it. I just thought that was a real nice touch to the Iron Man soundtrack from the 90s cartoon. And wow, it just gave me chills hearing that. It goes do 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 do. Do, 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 do. I just loved it. I just thought, holy cow, I was not expecting that, but excellent closer. As I said, probably my favourite track of Third Impressions. And wow, I never really thought they would go there, but they did, and I loved it. I just thought it was excellent. So the standout tracks for me are Top of the World, Black of Night, The Devil of Liverpool, Emotional Trigger, and Never, which is probably my favourite track of Third Impressions. Just an absolute dynamite track, and I loved how it captured the spirit of the Iron Man 90s cartoon. And for those of you who did watch the show, Keith Emerson only scored the first season, and they went in a different direction with season two, which, no disrespect to the music they used for Iron Man season two, it was fine. Bit too Americanized for my liking, but nobody captured the spirit of Iron Man quite like Keith Emerson, and he should have scored the 2008 MCU movie, in my opinion. But what can you do? But there you have it. Third Impressions, great follow up to The Rules Have Changed. Robert Berry on top form as always, playing guitars, bass, keyboards, drums, and vocals. Just an amazing musician and a super talented multi instrumentalist. So there you have it. Third Impressions, great follow up to The Rules Have Changed. Excellent stuff. So we move on to the next album, and this one came out in 2022, and it's a triple disc live album, and this one is called Alive at Progstock. So this is 3.2 as a band, as I mentioned already. We've got Robert Berry on guitars and bass and vocals, Paul Keller on guitars and vocals, Andrew Coyer on keyboards and vocals, and Jimmy Keegan from Spock's Beard on drums and vocals as well. So a lot of the material that's featured on Alive at Progstock is a bit of everything really. So we've got material from Free, some of material from the 3.2 albums, some ELP material, some cover versions of material from Genesis and Yes. And it's a fantastic live album. All four musicians are on blinding form. And also in between songs, Robert Berry gives you a little insight into the history of each of the songs. And wow, it's just a great live performance. It really is. And all four musicians are on top form. And the production on this live album is just excellent. So we've got Life Beyond LA, which is great. No One Else to Blame is another great track as well. Desde la Vida, which is probably my favourite track from Free. That really captures the spirit of ELP. Powerful Man is great. Last Ride into the Sun is great. Minstrel in the Gallery is great. You Do or You Don't, acoustic, which is just absolutely beautiful. And then we've got a great rocking version of Yes's iconic Roundabout, which is just one of the standouts of this performance. Can't Let Go is very touching and gorgeous. Somebody's Watching is great. Talking About, another favourite of mine from Free, to the Power of Free, is just absolutely kick-ass. 8 Miles High is great. A fiery version of ELP's Fanfare for the Common Man, which of course, as we all know, was originally composed by Aaron Copland, which is just absolutely brilliant. And then we get a very entertaining cover version of Deck the Halls with Jimmy Keegan on vocals. And then we got a brilliant version of Genesis' Watcher of the Skies. Absolutely fantastic. And it wouldn't be a tribute to ELP without playing perhaps the greatest ELP song of all time, from Brain Salad Surgery, Can't Evil 9, First Impression Part 1. Absolute great way to close out this performance. Just an unbelievable performance from everybody. And Robert Berry on blinding form on guitars and bass and vocals, as are the entire band. I have to give Andrew Coyer mega props to, playing all of the Keith Emerson parts. It takes balls to play Keith Emerson's parts, but to his credit, he did an amazing job. He really did. If someone said to me, I want you to play Keith Emerson's stuff, I'd run out of the room. I'll be like, no way. I'm not doing that. I'm not good enough to play that. But Andrew Coyer, to his credit, done an amazing job. Paul Keller, great guitar player, and Jimmy Keegan, just an amazing drummer and a pretty good singer as well. So standout tracks for me are Disda La Vida, Powerful Man, You Do or You Don't, acoustic, Roundabout, Can't Let Go, Talking About, 8 Miles High, Fanfare for the Common Man, Watcher of the Skies, and Can't Evil 9, First Impression, Part 1. Excellent live album. Everything you want in a live album. Just amazing stuff. Absolutely love this one. So there you have it. 3.2 Alive at Progstock. Tremendous live album, in my opinion. Fantastic. So which 3.2 album do I think is the best one? Well, they're all excellent. They all sound great. There's no bad albums here. Any of these albums could be a number one or an all-time favourite. Even though this is a very short catalogue, it's remarkably strong, which is a testament to the talents that Robert Berry is. But if I had to choose one, which I think is the best 3.2 album, then I will go with The Rules Have Changed, because I think this one really captured the spirit of Keith Emerson beautifully. And it's one of those albums, what would it have been like if Emerson had lived? Would this album have been finished? Would this have continued and turned into a proper band? We'll never know, but Robert Berry did a fantastic job honouring and channeling the spirit of Keith Emerson, but still sounding very much like his own man. But I just thought this was a real nice tribute to perhaps the greatest keyboardist of all time, Keith Emerson. So there you have it, 3.2. The Rules Have Changed. For my money, the best 3.2 album ever. I just absolutely love this one. Third Impressions is great, but I just think this one was very special in my opinion. And I would have loved to have heard Keith Emerson on this one had he had lived, but we'll never know really. But it is what it is. But I know Robert Berry made Keith Emerson proud with this music. So there you have it. The Rules Have Changed. For my money, the best 3.2 album of the whole catalogue. Absolutely fantastic album. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite 3.2 album? Is it The Rules Have Changed, Third Impressions, or Alive at Progstock? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Progressive Rock and Metal album review series. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.